So today I have with me Chris, all the way from Tulum, Mexico. We were just chatting a little bit about difference in weather, which of course we always do when you're in Canada, right? In other
Absolutely.
places, it's beautiful year round. Here we have all kinds of seasons. So it was really cool. But Chris has a really unique perspective on using radio to attract deals. And I really found that interesting, and I wanted to pick his brain about finding out exactly how he does it, because we're always looking for ways to find more deals, aren't we? So welcome, Chris. So good to have you here. So tell me a little bit about your background. How did you get started in real estate?
Yeah, so I've been in real estate now for about 15 years. The way I kind of got off the bench and into the game was I simply got licensed as an agent. And
Okay.
so, yeah, from there, I grew up a brokerage that I still have today that runs pretty much without me. And then from there, it's like, hey, I want to get into the investment side. And so we do a lot of wholesaling, kind of fix and flip, all of that in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And that's run off a virtual model, which allows me to live in Tulum, Mexico full time. So we have no brick and mortar. And then I've got a couple coaching / education businesses as well, which I'm super passionate about. But you know how it is, like 15 years in, you kind of start to put all these different things into place that all work together.
Well, exactly. People just start asking, how the heck did you get to be so successful, right? That's what happened to me. Tell me more, tell me more. So yeah, you just start building out stuff, right? So what's your primary focus, Chris, when it comes to real estate?
Yeah, so a couple of things. We have a really strong marketing company. We're the type of company that's good at finding what I would call motivated seller opportunities. And so we're one of the largest kind of wholesale fix and flip companies in the North Texas area. And so we focus a lot on connecting investors with deals that they're looking for.
Oh, nice, nice. Okay. And are you all across the US?
With the investment side, we focus primarily in Texas, but education-wise, like showing people how to do radio, as well as I run a kind of a brotherhood for some of the top real estate investors in the country. That's nationwide, and they all come down here to Tulum, Mexico to hang out, which I love.
Of course, yes. Why not pick the nicest spot to go to, hey?
Yes.
So when you say wholesaling, so you're looking at houses, apartment buildings, stores, businesses, everything, or
Yeah, we primarily focus on the residential side. So a lot of our clientele are people that want to build their rental portfolio, or they're kind of that fix and flipper, looking for an opportunity to be able to get in and do their rehab work. So we'll do that to, again, sometimes we'll get bigger deals that we can wholesale, but primarily residential is what we pick up.
okay, okay, perfect. So tell us how the radio program works.
Yeah, so I've been doing radio now for about 10 years, and I'm one of those type of investors that have pretty much tried out everything. I love marketing. I do really feel like in the investment world, if you can be the rainmaker, if you can generate those marketing opportunities, that makes you magnetic as a whole. Because there's a lot of people out there that want to do deals and they know how to do a deal. They don't necessarily know how to actually generate those opportunities. And so that's what we've gotten really good at. So of all those marketing channels that I've done, the strongest, and I've been doing for 10 years, without question, has been radio. Been consistent, tried and true over every other marketing channel that I've put in place so far.
So do you then hire a radio company to work with, or have you got your own radio company?
Yeah, so the worst thing you can do is we're going to start to pick apart radio is what most people do is go, hey, I'm interested in advertising on radio. So they're going to call down to their local radio station, speak with a radio rep, and that person's going to send over a media kit. That's about the most backwards way that you can go about it. It'd be like calling a traditional real estate agent to find an investment opportunity. Usually they only have access to retail unless they're trained to look at investment opportunities. So it's like, no, you don't go to an agent. They don't really understand the investment side of what we do. So what we actually do is we do our negotiations based off of pulling reports about a radio station, which tells us everything. How many people listen, how many own versus rent, how many people are over specific ages, those type of things. And so when we go in to advertise on a radio, we call them with that data. And based on that data, we tell them the value of what their station is and what we're willing to really negotiate and pay for what we call a 60-second spot. So we're doing it 180 from the way most people are doing it.
That, you know what, that totally makes sense, because I've tried a little bit of radio advertising in the past, Chris. Got zero, like absolutely zero. And it was them reaching out to me saying, hey, I know we've been watching you, da da da. Do you want to try some, radio advertising? And of course, it's a long-term investment, and you got to put money in every month. And I'm going, well,
no, it's not a long-term investment.
Yeah.
It should kick in immediately. But here's the thing. A lot of times people will listen to their radio rep or someone working at the station to help them put together their program for how you're going to advertise. Again, there's a lot of variables on radio. Are you going to run a 30-second spot or a 60-second spot? Are you going to advertise during prime time? Are you going to advertise weekends and evenings and things like that? What you have to realize is every product, every service that you sell on radio has its own combination of variables that work. So there's no way for a rep to understand that if you're trying to create an investment opportunity, what all of those variables need to line up to generate that type of call. And so there's no way. That means they would have to know that about every industry, every product. And so what we figured out over 10 years is how to line up all of those variables that work the best, particularly for generating investment opportunities.
Yeah, because you know what, you don't hear much of it on the radio at all. So that'd be interesting. So what are some of the things that you have them say? Are you advertising for, you kind of say you put investors and deals together. Are you looking more for the deals or looking more for the investors, or both?
Yeah, so you primarily want to go after the actual seller, the person that's trying to move it. Because again, if you've got a great opportunity, and it depends. If you're going to do the deal yourself, we're talking about two different models here. Let's say that you're in multifamily or you're building your own single family portfolio like the Burr method. Again, you want to get directly in touch with the seller because you're keeping that deal in-house. But the other deal is if you're buying these things in order to try to flip them or wholesale them, whatever that looks like, if you've got a great opportunity, the buy side being the cash buyer that's going to want to come in and do that deal or finance that deal is going to be much easier to find for sure. So target the seller. The seller.
Okay. And when you approach the radio station, must be an age group you're looking at, is it? Or is it distressed sellers? What kind of sellers are you looking for?
Yeah, so there's primarily three demographics in the US. So you have over the age of 50, you have what are called your rural demographics and your urban demographics. If you were to pull apart most people's deals that they have, the primary demographic that's actually the strongest that creates investment opportunities for us is over the age of 50. So this is why radio works so well, because people over the age of 50 have two behaviors that are ingrained. They watch television and they listen to radio. And here's the biggest mistake people make. People go, well, why are more people not utilizing radio? Because they confuse themselves as their demographic. They go, well, I've got a Spotify account, or I listen to Pandora, but I'm sorry, people over the age of 50 do not stream. They still have the habit of turning on the radio. So once you understand that that's primarily your target, that's when you begin to understand why radio is so valuable, because it's putting you right in front of the people that are most probable in bringing you some type of distressed asset to sell.
That totally makes sense. Yeah. And it's so true, because I'm in that age group. I don't tend to go first to Spotify. I don't listen to the news or anything like that. But if there was an ad thrown in on the radio or TV, I'd probably notice it. So yeah, okay, good. So what do you say to people that get some interest in calling you? Do you ask them, do you have a distressed property? Or are you a distressed seller? What are the kind of things you say to them in the ad?
Yeah, I mean, you got to understand, this is generating one of the highest quality leads that we know how to generate. So, I mean, again, we'll use multifamily. Maybe you're doing a direct mail program to go after multifamily, right? A lot of people right now are utilizing even things like RVM, ringless voicemail, text blasting, a lot of the newer technology stuff. The problem with those is that over half of those calls that come in are usually people that are frustrated because they feel like they're getting hit in a spam approach. With radio, you gotta realize someone is driving down the road, they hear a call to action on a 60-second spot, and they call in, they're motivated. You don't get a lot of tire kickers on radio because people aren't gonna take the time to call in, jot down your number and so forth. So when you're on, to answer your question, like what does that conversation look like? Again, we catch these calls live. Like we make sure that they don't go to voicemail. So our in-house team that we have, when that phone rings and that lead source is radio, we're going to make sure we capture it because those people are hot. They're ready to talk about whatever circumstance they're in on why they need to sell this particular deal. And they're ready to set an appointment and look at getting something locked up on the contract. And the best thing is you don't have a ton of competition around it because they're not getting hit like other people in another source where, let's say you're doing direct mail, they got 50 postcards stacked up on their kitchen counter, you know what I'm saying? And so this really separates you from the sense of getting highly motivated sellers that have very limited competition because other people aren't touching them.
Perfect. So how do people find out more about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I recommend, always doing due diligence, right? I'm one of those people, I love coaching. I've definitely paid for a lot of things to give me speed to set something up because my mindset is like, why do I need to figure this out if I can pay someone else for speed to show me how to do it?
Me too.
Without question. But I know how it is. It's always making sure, is this the right person to be able to do that? So what we've actually done is I want to preserve radio. And so we limit the amount of people that we're putting into this program and markets. Reason being is I don't want it to get oversaturated like I've seen a lot of the other marketing channels. And again, you can be fabulous at running them. You can have a great back end and system, but if there's a ton of people sitting around that poker table, it's just hard to play the game. So where you want to start is, go to wholesalinginc.com/REI radio. Again, wholesalinginc.com/REI radio. Again, book a call, ask questions. Again, as I mentioned, see if your market is open. But at this point, we have helped people east to west coast set this up. And I've been doing this.
In Canada, Chris?
We just actually launched our first person in Toronto.
Oh, okay.
That's exciting. So we've been really selling out a lot of the U.S. markets. And so now we're up in Toronto. Because the great thing is Nielsen, which is like the MLS for radio, which we need to understand markets, is actually both in the U.S. and Canada. So again, if you have MLS, you can evaluate a deal. It doesn't matter where it's at. So it's the same with radio. We have access, or Canada utilizes the same system we do down in the US, which is awesome.
Perfect. Because that would definitely interest me to find out that. And I've got a lot of students in Toronto area, actually.
Yeah.
So even though I'm in Saskatchewan, because there's not a lot of people that train just directly on multifamily. So that would be good. So how does that work then? So you screen the people, first of all, to see if that area is open. What would an area be? All of Toronto, or would it be a portion of Toronto, or how does that work?
They have what's called a market map. And so it's a map that radio uses to divide up, the US and Canada based on the size of the market. And so a market a lot of times is multiple cities. So as an example, I'm in Dallas, Fort Worth. So all of Dallas, all of Fort Worth, a bit of that surrounding area is that particular market.
Okay.
And so that's just a certain way that they have chosen to divide up markets. And that's the way that we do it. But a couple of things, that I think are really the most valuable aspects of radio. You might not think to ask this question, so I want to touch on it. Two things that you get that you don't get from other marketing channels. The first one is what we call celebrity status. So if you are trying to build your brand, if you're trying to build your name, let's say you're in Toronto, whatever that looks like, what people don't realize until you connect the dots is, where do celebrities come from? They come from television and they come from radio. And we know that what happens psychologically in the mind of people, all of us, right? We all have, movie stars that we like, is that those forms of media play with our mind to really elevate people and put them on a pedestal. And so just like a celebrity can get status whether they're movie or music, you can actually get it in your local market because of radio. And so people are like, wow. And I go, what other marketing channels are going to generate celebrity status for yourself? And then the thing that follows behind that, which is crucial, is what I would call instant credibility. So people make this assumption, right? Edna, if I hear you on the radio, you must be an expert, and therefore you must know what you're talking about, because only experts can afford to advertise on the radio.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so the celebrity status and the instant credibility are huge. And what people don't realize is that radio is extremely affordable. So most people are like, well, you know, if I'm going to start radio, I probably assume I've got to begin with a budget of like 10 grand a month. Most of our students are starting with budgets of $1,000 to $2,000 a month, because we're buying radio at a wholesale, deep discounted price. We buy our radio like we buy our real estate, like you buy your multifamily. You don't go in and pay retail for it. What creates a great multifamily deal is when you find that circumstance, that ability to get in and negotiate a heck of a deal. Yeah. Well, we're taking that mindset and applying it to radio, and we're getting such good returns because we're buying at such a deep discounted rate. And that's what we're showing our students how to do.
So if a person, say, took on a project and decided to do that for, you know, a couple months, do you have an idea of how many deals would come their way?
It depends on how much they're spending, but let me give you the metric or the KPI that matters.
Sure.
It's what's called your dollar per dollar return, right? Again, you have cost per lead, cost per acquisition. Again, we track all of those things. But if you're looking at a marketing channel, the number that matters the most is, for every dollar I spend, how many dollars am I getting back in return? Therefore, your dollar per dollar return. So radio, for every dollar you spend, and we see this east to west coast consistently, is bringing back $3 to $4. So that means that you will go anywhere from triple to quadrupling what you're spending on radio in the sense of what's coming back in profitability.
Okay. So one of the things I teach my students is that on every property, you should get yourself an acquisition fee. So if you buy $1 million apartment building, you should get an acquisition fee of 1% or $10,000. So if they acquired one building in a month, roughly, then that would, more than pay for their advertising efforts.
And here's what you realize, and let's say that was the case. Let's say it was 10 grand and you're advertising on a radio station for 1,000 to 2,000. Yeah, you've fundamentally almost paid for that for half of the year. So this is why radio is so profitable, because again, we're buying it at such a discounted price that by the time you get to paying the cost, it's easy to get into the green, or you call it black. I like to call it the green. And so everything on top of that, you're just stacking as a profit in your pocket because you've already paid for all of your radio for the year. And let me say this, when I say $1,000 to $2,000 a month, when people are like, well, what does that look like? So we are advertising every station. We start with 100 ads per month. So that means that we're running 60-second spots. So when I tell you that I have a student that's paying $1,500 a month, they're all running 100 ads. So we are running 60-second spots for $15 a spot. And people step back and are like, okay, I can't believe that you can buy radio at that. And this is what we're showing. Again, the two assumptions are, I don't listen to radio, and I've already told you, you're not your demographic. So that's mistake one in your thinking. And then mistake number two is, well, I just assume it's not affordable. And what I'm telling you is our average student, like if you take all of our students for a 60-second spot, low end, they're paying $5 to high end, maybe about $20 on average.
Okay.
That's a budget of $500 to $2,000, right? Because again, you're taking 100 ads, you're dividing it into that monthly budget. So here's what I see them doing. They're getting in, they're launching on a radio, closing one or two deals within the first month or two, and then they're just rolling it into the second station and getting the third station and just beginning to build from there.
That totally makes sense. So do you ever see groups of people come in and do it together? Or does each individual student come in on their own?
I mean, they have teams, they have business partnerships, but not in the sense of two people that were not, let's say, tied together via
No,
some.
I was thinking of being tied together, like even just say example with my students. So, I probably have 30, 40 students at any one time looking for stuff. We could target a specific area or target a few different areas with a decent budget, right?
Absolutely. But again, in this situation, we're limiting people. So most of the time, people want to come in and kind of have that market all to themselves, usually,
Okay.
if that makes sense, unless you were coming in with like a really big, let's say, budget. But again, in that standpoint, I wouldn't want to divide that up too much in the sense of like you throw out 30 people. I think that's too many people for a market.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So how do people connect with you to find out if they're a good fit?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, go to wholesalinginc.com/REI radio, book a call. And then of course, always for just kind of information on what we're doing and so forth, you can always go to my YouTube and subscribe at Chris Arnold Real Estate. But yeah, book a call through wholesalinginc.com/REI radio and we'll help you out.
Okay, perfect. Well, that sounds awesome. I am definitely sure there's going to be a few people that are interested in finding out more about that because I think it's a great channel. Like you say, everybody's on, Facebook and YouTube and stuff like that, and this sounds like a great way, to get some deals. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time, Chris, and I'll send you a copy of this when it comes out, and we'll follow up.
Sounds good. Thanks, Edna, for having me on. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.